Welcome to the podcast that's dedicated to helping business owners prepare for exit so that you can maximize value and exit on your terms. This is the Exit Insights podcast presented by Succession Plus. I'm Daryl Bates-Brownsword, and today I'm talking to Andy Cabasso. Andy's one of these great people who have built a business and exited it, and he's going to share what he's learned and some of the stories that he knew beforehand, and what he's doing with the information now that he's exited the business and what he's moved on to. Welcome, Andy. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks, Daryl. Thanks for having me.
Brilliant. Hey, Andy, look, can you just set up the background for us about the business you built and give us the whole story and we'll jump in.
Sure. So, past life, I was a practicing lawyer, but when I was in law school, I was realizing I don't know that I want to actually practice law. But at the same time, when I was applying to work at different firms, I was noticing that they all had pretty bad websites, and there was something I could do about this, having a marketing background. And a buddy of mine who was my roommate in university was freelancing at the time. And so we talked about working together and using his experience as a web developer and doing freelancing and mine and marketing, figuring I can speak to this legal audience. We started an agency called Juris Page that focused on doing web design and marketing specifically for law firms. And we did a good enough job with our SEO and our marketing and partnerships to make it so I didn't need to practice law anymore. And so I, after a short while, went full-time on the agency. And then from there, about 3 years later, we got interest in being acquired by a few different people. One of them, the eventual acquirer, was a partner of ours. And today I'm going to talk about the entire process of that and the things that we did to make us more attractive for an acquisition.
Yeah. So thanks, Andy. So it was only after 3 years when, did people come knocking on your door, or did you somehow send the message out that you'd entertain such conversations?
We never were looking to be acquired, which I think maybe made us more attractive as an acquisition target. Mm-hmm. But over the years, we just had a lot of companies throwing up feelers, like whether it was companies in our industry of legal technology, or it was other web design agencies or marketing agencies that were in adjacent industries like dentistry, let's say, looking to get into legal, and thinking that we would be the entry for them into this market. Yeah, over the years, even though we hadn't really done any promotion to try and put ourselves out there looking to be acquired, we definitely had inquiries. That was like nice to have.
Sure. Yeah, that makes you feel good if someone says we want to buy your business.
Right.
So what did those initial inquiries look like, Andy? How did they approach you?
So, and I get this to this day. I'm working on another business now, and fairly regularly either investors or potential acquirers reach out to you, and they do this bulk sort of outreach, here is a company in the space. Let's see if they're looking, let's just see if they're looking to be acquired. And they all have their own criteria. Common criteria are you have to be over this recurring revenue range, you have to have a certain EBITDA or profitability, or something like that. And if you're all right, well, thanks for sharing your criteria, I don't think we'd be a good fit, or based on what you're telling me, this could or could not be something that's worth it for us. But we would just get a lot of feelers, people reaching out to have a conversation to see if we might be a good fit for either investment or acquisition. And it happens to me to this day with kind of everything that I'm working on. And I kind of know generally going into them, the majority of them won't work out. Significant majority of them won't work out, just for a variety of reasons. But I'm always happy to take a call because you never know. Yeah. And that was kind of the situation with the company that acquired my agency. We were friendly. We're in the same space. We had some mutual clients, and they said, yeah, we'll see you at the upcoming conference in a few months. by the way, are you interested in potentially being acquired? And my honest answer was, probably not, but let me know what you're thinking and we'll go from there. And so, yeah, I'm just kind of always open to entertaining anything. Like, even if I'm not planning on selling, if you're going to offer me a stupid, ridiculous amount of money that I can't say no to, then we're talking, you know?
So you don't lose anything by having a conversation, right?
Right. The only thing that you lose is your time, and I guess there are only so many hours in the day. But I've felt like entertaining conversations with potential investors or acquirers was generally a good use of time.
Yeah. And we've got to get clever at fielding and filtering, some of those general probing marketing inquiries from the corporate finance and the brokers are always sniffing around looking for something,
Right.
as opposed to those ones. So that partner sort of approached you directly, and so they already knew you and started saying, hey, look, is this something you'd entertain? And so that's specifically targeted and got a bit more merit potentially.
And like, I wish I could say this was like part of the strategy from the beginning, but I'm not that clever. So I will just say that in hindsight, developing partnerships with other companies in your industry, in your space, can be a good exit opportunity for you. If you have mutual customers and clients with other companies in the space, and if you've done co-marketing ventures with them in the past, if you co-presented webinars or done blog posts on each other's blogs, if you're on each other's radars, if you're referring business, that keeps you top of mind, that if this other company might be looking to acquire a company similar to yours, they already like you, hopefully, and will be thinking of you when they're looking to make acquisitions. And so partnerships was a big channel for our agency. We did partnerships with other tech companies that didn't offer what we offered, and we'd also refer new customers to them. We had partnerships with software companies in our space as well. And so we're a relatively small company, but we became well known in our space because of all the marketing efforts that we were doing with other companies in the space. And that I think found us a lot more opportunities for acquisition that maybe some other companies in our space wouldn't have found, just because they may have been a good fit equally or more so, but the other companies knew us and liked us.
Yeah. And I think you underestimate some of the things you do. Like you're already operating a fairly sharp niche. So it's easy to stand out with niches, expertise and credibility there. And I think the other great tip you shared there was, build partnerships with people who are a bit bigger than you. You punch above your weight, you get well known. People who are acquiring M&A, what they want to minimize their risk. If they know you and have an insight and a feeling for your business and what you guys are up to, you're minimizing the risk for them. You're building credibility and reputation, and they've got a feel for what's going to happen post acquisition.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you've entertained the idea with these guys who have made their initial inquiry. They've gone, let's have a chat. You've gone, well, yeah, I don't know, but I've got nothing to lose by having a chat. How did that go? What happened?
Sure. So as far as like the process goes, they had a pitch for us of like kind of like what their big vision is, and then like we do some NDAs and share some financials and things like that, and from there they make an offer, we negotiate, we get to terms that could work out for both of us, and then once that's all settled on, going through a due diligence process, which anyone who's ever done these before, it's just a very, very time-consuming effort of putting together all this information that the buyer needs, financials upon financials and statements and bank credit info, customer lists, all these sorts of things. And that process, and then of course like the actual purchase agreement and terms and going through the lawyers. And even though I am a lawyer, it was something like, if I were in a car accident, I wouldn't use my own services to personal injury, because that's not my area of expertise. And I'm sure any lawyer that I know that is not in that certain area would look to hire a lawyer. And so I know that that wasn't my strength. What my background isn't in M&A, so I don't want to mess this up. So we went and hired a lawyer to help us through this process.
Good.
Yeah.
Another great tip there. So looking back, Andy, and the time it took, and going through all the GDD and having to find a lawyer, how much pain and time do you think it may have saved you if you guys had been thinking in advance about getting the business ready and going, hey, look, we want it ready to be sellable or exitable just in case, but you never know. We want to get our ducks in a row. What would you have saved?
So one thing was, we were very organized early on, and that was very lucky. I guess I don't know if lucky is the right word, but from the beginning, I was very serious about our bookkeeping. I was very serious about our processes, and so a very important thing for our agency was that we offer a productized service. And so if anyone's not familiar with that, basically what it entails is all the services being offered are very fixed scope, with certain deliverables and certain processes to get there. So if we're doing website design, let's say, we have very specific stages of the design process and very specific entitlements. So X amount of pages on the website, a certain amount of content, and the process is very repeatable and doable. It's very assembly line like, and we had a lot of documentation and process for how we do what we do to make it repeatable, so that we could be able to easily bring on new people when needed, to get them in the right seats and help us scale. And so that kind of mindset from the beginning, having a productized service, having something that we could scale, and having recurring revenue components to all of this, we really dialed in and made sure that we had all of our ducks in a row. And so when the acquirer did come to us, we weren't and they asked for documentation on how we do what we do. We weren't having to spend a whole lot of time writing stuff from scratch, just in retrospect documenting all of these things that I've been doing as a manager or anything like that.
So you already had the system, so that when they said, show us the way you do things, you're able to produce the documentation straight away and go, here you go.
Yeah. So, and this is absolutely a thing that I would recommend for any agency, or really any company, for all of your roles, is have your defined processes, have your SOPs. That was a really important thing for the acquiring company, is if they want to help us scale and expand, and they want to see how you do what you do, well, what's your existing process? What are the bottlenecks? And if we're to hire someone tomorrow, how quickly and easily could they pick things up, and what are the issues there? So I think no matter what, from the beginning, the goal with any business that's going to scale is you want to be able to easily add in new team members, and as a manager, hopefully as an owner manager, be able to replace yourself. And so you can't replace yourself if other people don't know exactly how they can do the job. And so documentation is super critical for that.
Yeah. And when you've got documentation, you can use it for training, you can use it to identify mismatches. So if the business and the owners think the process is operating one way, but the people following the process are doing it another way, there's a mismatch really quick that can be identified because and I'm guessing you've got some sort of process review system in place. Mm-hmm. The whole reason we have processes documented is so that they can be followed by all. And everyone do it the same way. So we've got consistency, repeatability, and reliability in our business model. And just for anyone who's not aware, I think you threw in the SOP. So for anyone who's not aware of that, that's a standard operating procedure for doing things that's documented. And I've seen businesses that have got the process documented, but no one knows where to find it. So it's got to be easy to find. It's got to be there at your fingertips whenever you need to follow the process, and you need to know that it exists. And then, the next thing for a business is to, and I'm guessing it sounds like you did this as well, is have some sort of, I guess, another process to give you confidence as the business owner that the processes were followed.
Yep.
So you got some sort of feedback reporting of how well the process is going, and through other KPIs and measures in place.
Absolutely. Yeah. One thing that's kind of important, I guess, big picture to all of this is the KPIs and the metrics. The processes, if you follow the processes and repeat them, that should relate to some big picture metrics that you have for the position. So for like web design, let's say, we might care about a certain throughput, or how long are your clients in this certain stage of the process, how much of it is them waiting on us for the design, how much of it is us waiting on them for assets that we need, and are we doing what we say we're going to do? And if we're waiting on them, we have a regular cadence for following up. If it's in our court for design, how long is it in the design queue? If it's more than X amount of days or weeks, we're behind. So the important thing is for every role that there are metrics that you can that your team members can be accountable to, so that you as like a manager can know where the issues are, where the bottlenecks are. And that's something I've taken with me with future businesses as well. Like it's just a super important thing for any business trying to scale, is making sure that your roles have defined metrics, also metrics that the team members can see and that they can be accountable to themselves. Because no one wants to come do a review and get feedback like, why are you not meeting these targets? Here are your targets. Here you haven't hit them, and they might be blindsided like, oh, I thought I was doing a good job. So it's important, with as much as you can, having in your systems ways for your team members to be able to see their progress. Like, for example, there are like project management tools. I like ClickUp right now. I've been using that for over a year. Before that, I was using things like Trello or Podio. Trello, I personally didn't like all that much because it wasn't as helpful for me to do with repeating processes and also with KPIs. But ClickUp has this nice thing where if you have certain like defined tasks, you can create metrics. So like I could see, for example, if I have a team member who has to do X amount of tasks, or that's their metric, that's their benchmark, I can create a dashboard that shows me they've done this many tasks this last week or days or months or quarter or anything like that. And if that's what they're accountable to, whatever it is, as a manager, I can quickly pop in and see how they're doing without having to manually spend hours and hours diving to see what's going on.
So an engineer once told me, he says, look, Daryl, systems thinking comes from engineering design, and smart systems had feedback loops, and feedback loops allow you to adjust and refine the system, which is essentially what you've just said. And you've also added that, we had metrics for each person, and each person had their numbers that they're accountable for. We had the process, metrics, but we need to communicate to the people, what our expectations are of them, and agree that they're achievable, to make sure that we're all heading in the same direction. And if everyone's got a number that they can own, it gives a sense of accomplishment and contribution.
Yeah.
Which we need that energetic as well as that cultural as well as commercial outcome we're looking for.
Sure, and I guess to that, like if this is all sounding brand new to you listening, a recommendation would be the book Traction by Gino Wickman, which basically kind of goes through the ideas of basically a business operating system, and there are different components to the business, the people, the numbers, and big picture goals and things like that. And that's I'd say a really good starting point. Some of it may seem unnecessary if you're like a smaller business, because you're like, all right, well, it wants me to have a 90-minute meeting each week with my co-managers, and we're just not that big that this doesn't make sense. I would still say, like, read the book and take the ideas that you think can be applicable to you. Another book is The Rockefeller Habits, which I guess the new version of that is called Scaling Up. Similar concept, just having an operating system for your business and having metrics and rocks, they're called. They're like quarterly goals and things like that, and that you're accountable to. And that like these books have been very helpful for me in kind of laying out and organizing my business.
Yeah, look, well, some of the things you're talking about, I was thinking that sounds like, yeah, he's following the entrepreneurial operating system from Traction.
Yep.
And there are some great tips in both of those books that you've mentioned, and both those books are in my library as well. So yeah, look, great feedback there. So Andy, look, you mentioned earlier and touched on it, and I'd like to dig a little further into this. Like, you've been through the process, you've put some systems and structure into your business, and you know, the harder you work, the luckier you get, and so you'd made your business attractive for someone to actually say, are you interested in selling it? Mm-hmm. You went through, you've successfully exited the business now. I'm just wondering, as you went through that process, you've come out the other end of it. What did you learn during the process that you thought, oh, I wish I'd known that before? And as a result of that thought, you've gone, let me do this in my new business that I'm working on now.
So after we were acquired, the company that acquired us, we had like a post-merger integration. And for a while, I was working for the company that acquired us, and I got to see how they ran their business. And they were much more dialed in to the numbers and the process than I was. And like, I thought I had a sense of process and things like that, but it was really eye-opening and kind of inspirational to see how very regimented they were. Like, I didn't know about Rockefeller Habits or Traction when I had my agency. I was just kind of putting things together as I figured I could, and like kind of winging it. But like seeing how very regimented, yeah, I guess regimented is probably the word, they were about their processes, their numbers, really everything for the business, was very kind of inspiring for me. I really took a lot with that, with my next business, to kind of from the beginning have been very focused on the process and the numbers and everything like that. So that was really, really helpful for me.
So you had an experience of kind of best practice of the things that you'd put in your business, which were a great starting point and made you attractive. You saw how, when you amplify that, you get to do it really well. So
yeah, and like for us, we were a much smaller business than the business that acquired us, and so seeing a business at a larger size, and like a CEO and an executive team, how they were able to manage dozens of people, that really gave me insights to see, okay, here is the kind of thing that you have to have in place when you want to scale to this size.
Okay. And how big was that business?
Their company was, I guess, I think like 2,000 people when they acquired us.
Right. So a proper size business.
Yeah.
Okay. So and how long was the integration? How long did you spend in that new company? And were you tied to it, I guess?
Yeah. So I'd say the I guess the real integration, the meat of the integration, took 6 months or so, maybe a little more than that. Mm-hmm. When you merge two companies, you have different systems, you have different like accounting books, and someone's using HubSpot for their CRM or their email, and someone else is using MailChimp or whatever possibly. And so a lot of processes, like a lot of the data had to be moved from one place to another. The processes had to move from one platform to another. And yeah, kind of getting everybody kind of on the same page took a while. Like I think that like we were it was very methodical about how it was going to go. And that was, I think, in part because the acquiring company, they had a consultant that helped them. And that was probably great to have, because like we would be like, I would have otherwise been of the mindset like, okay, we are officially acquired. Let's just move all of our stuff over to their platforms or whatever and move forward. But that was definitely probably overly ambitious. Like there are like, you can't do it all right away. And if you try and do it all right away, it'll end up being sloppy. And so there was a method to all of it. And yeah, it like, basically there was a process for, by X date, we're going to have moved over the books. By X date, we're going to have moved over the, I don't know, the CRM or whatever. And then here's what we're going to do as far as like marketing plans go to market this business and cross-sell it to our existing customers. And now let's get more familiar with how you sell your product versus how we sell our product, how our contracts work, and what we need to do to, if there's any migration that we need to do from our existing clients to the new company, stuff like that. But it was, I was like very impressed with just how thoughtful everything was, and when it could have been otherwise just very random and like, let's make a list and go through everything, because I think that would not have been very effective.
So and this is what happens a lot, is the acquiring company, when they acquire a business, you know, they're often much bigger, and it's not the first time they've done it. So they've been through the process. They've got a process for integrating, believe it or not. And
Sure.
and that's why often what can happen with smaller businesses being acquired, it's the first time they're being acquired, they can end up feeling like they're being pushed around. But so you guys went in, you got integrated. Now, were you tied to the business? Did you have to work for them for 2 or 3 years or any sort of agreement?
So I did stay on for a few years, and I did kind of like, I did a combination of, I did, you know, management for our division, and then I did some marketing for like the main company division as well. So I stayed on for a few years, and then after that moved on to my next project.
Great. So what is it you're doing now, Andy?
Sure. So one thing my co-founder and I kind of learned from running a digital agency was that we wanted to rank, you know, doing search engine marketing and SEO. We wanted to rank better in search, and as did we want to do for our clients. But SEO is very competitive. And one of the main things that we were seeing was that for a given website to rank better than competitors, important is the quantity and quality of links from other websites pointing to your website. That signals to Google that your site is legitimate and valuable, and therefore Google will reward you with better rankings. The thing is, you can get links naturally, like slowly, they might happen over time, but if you're trying to be methodical about it, you can do outreach to other blogs to pitch them to link on their articles, to link to your articles, or to pitch them to let you write a guest post on their blog, and which will give you, you know, better search rankings. The problem is that process that we saw was very labor and time intensive, and we kind of wish that there was an easier way for agencies to do that. So we built a platform, that's Postaga, that helps with prospecting to find relevant websites to reach out to and pitch for like collaborations. And it kind of evolved. Like the initial idea was that Postaga would be for link building, but the workflow of finding other websites and businesses that'd be a good fit to collaborate with you has a bunch of different applications. Like, for example, for sales lead generation, or for getting press coverage, or for finding new like affiliates and partners for e-commerce products and things like that. And so we kind of took that initial focus and expanded it. And so today, Postaga is used by everyone from agencies to SaaS businesses to authors to sales teams for doing cold email outreach to connect with potential partners, customers, and things like that.
Wow. So you bang into starting another business. You're applying all the lessons learned from the first time round. How long has Postaga been going now?
Postaga has been live for 2 years now.
2 years. And
yeah,
how's growth rate compared to your previous business?
I'd say it's faster in part because I'm older and wiser now. I have a good sense of lessons learned from a previous startup and how to market it. I'm doing much better at marketing this business now. I'm doing much better at managing my time and managing my team now than I was in the past. So having that previous startup business experience has been super helpful. And yeah, I feel like I'm moving a lot faster now than I was with my previous business because of that. And I don't think that's probably uncommon. Like having the experience helps your business move faster. But also I'm older now. So when I was in my 20s working on my first business, I could work 16 hours and really grind at it. But now, as a father of a young child, my work hours are limited, but they are much more productive. So I'm getting more out of that from the experience that I have.
Yeah, that's a really good point as well. We need that balance. We're excited, we're passionate, and we want to build the business, but we need that energetic balance between work and life, and that's what keeps the passion and the creativity alive. I've experienced with others. So your feedback is the expected answer, that we, as we go through it, we grow the business faster, and that's what I thought. So Andy, we'll put all of your links in the show notes. So if anyone wants to connect and ask further questions, I trust that's okay.
Sure. Yeah.
But out of this experience that you've had and you've been through the journey, what's the one tip that you really want listeners to take away from our conversation today?
I'd say build a process. The whole business should have the best you can do to make a business attractive to be sold is to build a system that ideally you can remove yourself from or be able to remove yourself from. With building a business versus building a job for yourself, the important thing is that you can build something that can run without you. And even if it's not running without you today because you have a small team or because you're still in it, the important thing is that you can set up structures in place so that an acquirer can potentially look at your business and see, all right, there is a business here, and if this company sells to us and the founder doesn't want to stick around long term, it'll still be able to operate, and that's an important thing.
You've just hit on something that is subtly different from what I've heard a lot of other people say. And everyone's out there saying, hey, look, as a business owner, you need to set your business and get out of the business and get people in to run it. But what I think you just said is structure the business so that it can do it. So if you want to keep working in your business and you've got a job in the business, that's really cool. But structure it so that you're in a job because you're just a person in the job, if it's an operational job, and you're in the job because it's not because of what you're just in a job. Whereas everyone else is saying, hey, look, get out and work 1 day a week or what have you.
I mean, that would be great, but I don't know a single person who is doing that. And I feel like that's like the dream. And Tim Ferriss lied to me. No one is spending more time working, I feel like, than Tim Ferriss. That 4-hour work week, I don't believe it, because, if you're working a couple hours on the business and not in the day-to-day, then I don't know how you're going to stay competitive long term. But
I'm with you on that one.
But for a business that's like looking to grow and that's early stages, in particular early stages, like, you may not be able to afford a manager to be running all of your operations. And so you have yourself in this role, but it's important long term to be able to, have your workflows and processes written down, so that if you were to remove yourself eventually or get acquired and they'd have a manager step in, they could easily do so. Like, I am still doing sales calls for Postaga. I'm still managing my team. I'm not spending 1 hour or 4 hours a week on it, thinking just only big picture things. And I typically find that's the case with a lot of business owners, is they have some management role that still has like day-to-day aspects of it, even if they are spending a good amount of time as well on the big picture stuff for the future of the business. So I wouldn't say you have to remove yourself completely, but just make it so that eventually you could remove yourself if you were able to.
There's some great advice there, Andy. Thanks. I really appreciate you sharing your story with us today.
Of course. Thanks, Sarah.